So imagine spending years paying for maritime school, passing every rigorous exam, but then you're never actually legally allowed on a ship.
Yeah, because you can't secure the mandatory sea time. It's rough.
Right, exactly. And that was the harsh reality for, thousands of Indian cadets. But today, we are analyzing DGS Order Number 3 of 2026 from the Directorate General of Shipping.
Which is a massive, massive overhaul.
Yeah, it is. Our mission is to really understand their new Comprehensive Inspection Program, or CIP, and how it aims to elevate Indian maritime training to, global excellence.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the system they're replacing was, well, it was basically just a collection of blind spots.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the previous oversight was entirely siloed. You had separate inspections for pre-sea training for new cadets and then post-sea competency for officers upgrading their licenses.
Okay, so it was all fragmented.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And modular courses for specific safety certifications were separate too. But this new CIP, it just rips up that whole fragmented approach.
Yeah, it consolidates every type of training into one unified inspection framework. So now, they grade institutes on a single scale from A1, which is excellent, all the way down to C2, which means poor.
It kind of reminds me of like those health inspection letter grades in restaurant windows, right? But with a very specific commercial twist.
That is a great way to put it, yeah.
Because the grade doesn't just, hang on the wall to look pretty. It directly dictates a school's operational capacity. Like, if you want to legally expand your student intake, you have to get a top-tier grade.
What's fascinating here is the underlying economic mechanism.
Yeah.
The government realized they couldn't just, inspect classroom infrastructure and expect better sailors.
Right, you can't just count the desks and call it a day.
Exactly. They had to regulate the business model itself. By tying an institute's legal capacity for growth directly to that unified grade, they eliminate the incentive to just, pack lecture halls for quick tuition cash.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, if your faculty, your simulators, and your actual placement performance don't measure up, your revenue ceiling just drops.
And that actually brings us to the heaviest weight in this new grading system, right? Solving that massive sea time backlog we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's a huge issue right now.
Because we all know getting a berth on a commercial vessel is logistically brutal right now. Shipping companies have really tight margins and limited extra bunks for trainees. So what does this all mean? Were schools just taking tuition and leaving cadets stranded on dry land?
Yes, they were actively exploiting the gap between those old separate inspections. A school could get top marks for its pre-C classroom facilities, graduate a massive class, and then take zero responsibility for whether those cadets ever found a ship.
Wait, really? That's insane.
It really is. But under the new CIP, an institute's grade is directly penalized if they don't secure actual onboard training. The DGS is forcing these schools to take end-to-end responsibility.
So the product isn't just a student who passed a written test anymore.
Exactly. Your product is a fully placed, working seafarer.
But wait, if the pressure is suddenly that high to place students on ships, some schools are absolutely going to try to, fudge the numbers, right? Or maybe temporarily rent equipment just to pass the unified inspection.
Oh, they would definitely try.
So how do they prevent that?
Well, the new enforcement mechanisms are designed specifically to catch those workarounds. They are implementing a strict 3-year cycle.
Okay, how does that work?
It's one detailed foundational inspection followed by 2 unannounced annual reviews. This ensures the school can't just, borrow lifeboats or marine engines for a one-day audit and return them the next day.
That makes a lot of sense.
And they also have to adopt mandatory ISO 9001 quality systems.
Which, that sounds like corporate jargon,
Right.
but for a training institute, ISO 9001 means every single operational process has to be documented and auditable.
Precisely.
You can't just rely on handshake deals. There has to be a solid paper trail for how you train and place every single student.
And that paper trail is fed directly into the DGS's e-governance platform. The government is essentially tracking a cadet's unique digital ID from the moment they enroll in a pre-C class to the moment they step onto a cargo ship.
Wow, that is comprehensive.
Oh, and there is mandatory public transparency too. Institutes must actively display their CIP grades on their websites and in all their marketing materials.
So you can't just hide a C2 grade in the fine print somewhere.
Exactly.
But if a school is genuinely failing, say they get that C2, are they just immediately shut down? Because taking schools entirely offline might actually worsen the global supply chain shortage in the short term, right?
Well, there is a strict remediation window, so they have some time. But the ultimate stakes are absolute.
What happens if they fail to fix it?
Failure to fix the metrics leads to certificate invalidation. That means your graduate's diplomas become worthless, or you face a total suspension of your approval to operate.
That is intense.
It is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this reform fundamentally shifts India from being just a high-volume source of cadets to a highly accountable, globally competitive provider of elite maritime professionals.
It really completely flips the script from just getting a diploma to actually building a career.
Yeah, that changes everything.
So next time you receive a package from overseas, consider the immense scrutinized training of the seafarer who brought it to you. That massive steel ship is being steered by someone whose education was rigorously tracked from a classroom all the way to the open ocean.
It's a huge journey.
It really is. It makes you wonder, could this kind of mandatory end-to-end placement accountability solve the skills gap in your own industry?